Okie dokie. I think I say okie dokie every time I start a live. Just checking my settings. Good morning, everybody. Karen here from Karen Gracie Equine Success and Off the Track Thoroughbred Success for our weekly Q&A on, oh, look, I haven't only half dressed here. There we go. Can you believe it? I still feel sick. Oh, my God. So, yeah, sorry if I cough a little bit. My sinuses have been playing up. Okay, let me just get my settings all happening. If you pop on, let me know that you're here. Pop say hello in the comments so I know that I can read the comments and you can send a comment to me. Okay. Cool. So I'll just wait for some people to pop on and then start our live. Okay. Cool. Okay. Beautiful. So I'm just going to wait for some people to pop on before I pick up the live. I have a question from Paula. Hey, Paula, how are you? Thank you so much for your questions. It's really good because it gives me a topic to speak about and I know what you guys are wanting too. So any questions, please feel free, pop them in the group. I always put a notification up the day before I do my live. Yeah, so feel free to ask me anything to do with Off the Track Thoroughbreds, riding, anything like that. Okay, so let me just find your question, Paula. I'll go on my phone and find it here. Sorry, I sound a bit nasally. I didn't see that. Sorry, I was just seeing another comment. Yeah. Sorry, guys. Reading this comment here. Okay. Awesome. Just writing a note to myself. I wonder if I can... I would like to be able to try and share on Facebook as well. I've got to find a piece of software that I can do so that I can link up to Facebook and YouTube. So let me just pop a question here. Question. Sorry, I'm answering a question. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to read out Paula's question. I was waiting for you to hop on, but I don't think you're here yet, Paula. So I'll start and you can watch the replay. I'm getting a little bit all over the place here with our live. Sorry, guys. Oh, dearie me. Okay. So I'm going to read out your question, Paula. Paula says, me again, always with my questions. No, I really appreciate your questions, Paula, so thank you. Can you please touch on what the next step would be after stop and go? I want to make sure I have covered all I can before putting a bit back in my horse's mouth. Not sure if you remember what we discussed before, how one of my mares seems to hate the bit. So I decided to go back to basics with just the halter, and I'm very glad I did. And that video you did with Nina slotted so many things into place for me. So good. I'm so glad that the video with Nina helped. That's wonderful. I'm not up to date with terminology, so please excuse me if I'm getting it wrong, but we have stop and go, backing, hind quarter yield, and forequarter yield, all working really well. Stop and go, all good. What do you recommend I add in next? I'm thinking the way forward is to put her bridle on and keep everything else the same and gently incorporate the bit in the exercises and be on high alert for discomfort and resistance and go past that. And not to go past that point until she is relaxed and comfortable with it. Am I on the right track? Please let me know your thoughts. Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for the question, Paula. Okay, so you are definitely on the right track. And let me go back here. So there's two things. So the bit, I remember we were discussing that. She was very uncomfortable with the bit. Now, this is something that I'm evolving in myself with the discomfort of the bit. And I am definitely growing more towards bitless. In saying that, we need to always keep in mind our safety. And also, if you want to compete and things like that, we're going to need a bit in certain disciplines. So I think that training her with a bit, finding something as soft as possible just to see how she goes is something that you can play with. And then also, I think we discussed in the past thinking of maybe going bitless with her. I don't think that's going to be a problem. For me, I'm learning more about bitless myself. So don't just see how she goes with a bit, but there is some bitless bridles that you could try on her that she may be very happy with, depending on also your goal as well. Do you want to get out competing with her, or is it more pleasure and trail riding? So if you're going to want to get out and compete with her, you will need to have a bit in certain disciplines like your cross country and that. I know there's hackamores that are allowed. I don't know a lot about hackamores other than they work on a leverage system. I can find out more. But if you're finding that you go back and put a bit in her mouth and she's really, really uncomfortable, I would go down the bitless path. Now, this is what I'm saying. I can't recommend a lot with bitless as yet because I am learning about it myself. I do think that Off The Track Thoroughbreds have a lot of negative associations with the bit. They've habituated to so much pressure and discomfort and pain. And I don't see a problem with going bitless, but once we have them very, very light to the responses. So we want to be able to make sure that safety is number one, that you have a really good stop and a really good go on your horse. First of all, in the head collar, and then if she's really, really not settling with the bit, you're finding that she's just not happy. We want to make sure our horses are happy and comfortable. Then maybe look at some alternatives with bitless bridles. But in saying that, we need to make sure that you have with whatever bitless bridle you go for, that you're really safe in your stop and go and that she's stopping to light responses. I'll go into that at the moment, but that's just to start off with. When you're up to the bit. So basically the bit comes in when you've worked. I bring the bit in when I have them very nice and soft in the stop and go, turn and yield in hand, and also lunging. And just before I start riding, I then start to introduce the bit. Or if we're going down the bitless bridle path, whatever bitless bridle that you choose. Now, let me know, Paula, if you're hopping on here. Let me know because I'll go back and start where I started so that you can catch up with what I've said here. So let me just what I'm going to do is find out more about Bitless. I've got a Bitless bridle myself. I'm very excited to start using it. I can't ride my horses at the moment because they're on a rehab program for calcium deficiency. I spoke about that, but when I get back in the saddle, that'll be one of the first bridles I'll start using on my older horse, Sam. Let's look at Bitless. I'll put it in my notes because I like to put remind myself of everything. We'll find out more about Bitless and Off the Track Thoroughbreds, because Paula, you may need to go Bitless if you really feel like she is just not happy with the bit in her mouth at all. Let me just. You've got some, so really the Bitless, we'll get, it's another topic in itself, but you've got the hackamores, you've got the side pulls, and you've got the the ones that go underneath the jaw. I'm trying to think what they're called. Let me just see if I can Google. So you could try some of those on her and see how she goes. Types of Bitless bridles. I've already got this someone. Let me just. That's right. It's called a cross under. So you've got the mechanical hackamore, which is the hackamore, which works on leverage, the leverage type of system. Now let's read out. Okay, now I'm just getting a bit all over the place with this live today, but let's read out and just see. I've just found a little article here. I haven't read it, so I don't even know what it's going to say, but it says, what is a Bitless bridle? And just an article I've just opened up. So I'll read it now. I'm going to get real with you guys today. My horse, Myra, hates bits. So you can relate to this, Paula. And when I say mean bits, I mean all bits. Ever since I broke her out as a baby, she despised anything being in her mouth. Of course, I had to check out by the dentist. And her teeth were totally fine. So it turns out she just has a super low palate and thick tongue. Now, isn't this interesting? It's the conformation of their mouth too. A very low palate and a very thick tongue means that there's not going to be very much room at all for a bit in the horse's mouth. So as she says here, that there isn't enough room for a bit to sit comfortably. This led me on a multi-year-long search of finding a bit that Myra would potentially tolerate. Believe me when I say I tried just about everything: French links, Waterfords, thick mouthpieces, thin mouthpieces, rubber, copper, leather, and even a custom low wide port. She hated every one of them. It used to be my goal to get her in the hunter ring at some point. So I didn't register in my brain to try a hackamore. But one day I finally said, what the heck, and threw her in one. It was almost like I had a different horse. I mean, it wasn't completely perfect, but Mira was definitely a happier camper. Let me know if you've popped on. Say hello. And if it's you, Paula, let me know and I'll go back and because I'm talking about your question. So this lady here has gone with a hackamore. This has then spurred me into researching all the different bitless options for her because I couldn't be settled until I found just the right one. So today I thought I would share some of my bitless knowledge with you so you don't have to jump through all the hoops I did. So do you want me to read this article? I want to read it. So let me just, this is getting a bit cold here. I'm going to read this and then we're going to get back onto where to go from your stop and go, Paula. But let's read the types of bitless bridles because this is what we're talking about. Where to go once you've worked in the head collar. Now, as we know, some off the track thoroughbreds, quite a lot, have a lot of associations with mouth and discomfort, pain, discomfort. And I myself have been one, haven't really done a lot of bitless riding other than hopping on my old horse and riding head collar, hopping on head collar and lead rope. But I don't know a lot about bitless. When we have off the track thoroughbreds, we need to prioritize safety because they are. Hey, Natalie, how are you? How's Bart going? You're doing so well with him. I'm so proud of you. It's so exciting. He's such a beautiful boy. I'm talking about here. So Paula had a question. Now, I have problems with the delay, even though I haven't got a delay in the messages. I have problems with the delay of my comments coming up. So, yeah, I don't know why. Tech is very confusing to me. But if I'm delayed in responding to you, it's because it's just popping up later than it's supposed to. So I'm just going to start reading the types of bitless bridles because we're on a bit of a bitless path here. So Paula, one of our lovely members, has a mare that really dislikes bits. I know. Yeah. Whereabouts are you, Natalie? I know I've asked you, but I've forgotten because it's wet and windy here too today. Been nice weather, but it's pretty horrible out there today. It was really windy yesterday. Oh, yes, South Australia. I know, some crazy weather in Australia at the moment, isn't it? It's just crazy. I'm down near Canberra and it actually hasn't, touch wood, my desk, it hasn't been too bad. I don't look at the weather thing anymore because rain, as we know, rain and wet does not go with horses. But we haven't had a lot of rain down in inland Canberra here, thank God. It looks a bit ordinary out there today, but yeah, it's been horrible. Hopefully spring comes and Natalie, you can start getting some more riding in. And probably perfect. I was going to talk about my group. I've got a training series coming up. I've had it coming up for ages on and off, but it's just me catching up with the tech side of it. And I think it'll be really good for you where you're starting with your boy because we're going to go through all the basic foundations and then get up under saddle. Awesome. Okay, bit and cob bridle. So how are you finding him with the bit? I'm on a bit of a learning journey with the whole bitless and bit. And being, as I just mentioned before, being with Off the Track Thoroughbreds, we really want to make sure that safety is a priority. They've habituated to so much pressure, and they're bred to gallop. They're trained to gallop and to run, and a lot of their running is on fear. So when we get them off the track, we have to make sure that we've really got good foundations of stop and go, and find the right bit. Teach them, because a lot of associations with the bit is associated with pain and discomfort. They habituate to so much pressure in racing with bit pressure, and part of racing and galloping is being up on the bit. So yeah, it's something that they habituate to and lean into the pressure. Quite often they can be sensitive in their mouth. So I think a bit of a trial on bits. Great. That's fantastic that he takes a fine. That's really good. So I'm just going to read out here. This is going to be bitless, so it's probably not going to, something to know anyway. But I'll just read out this for our bitless side of it. The options of bitless. So we've got here the mechanical hackamore. The most common popular bitless option is the mechanical hackamore. A mechanical hackamore consists of a noseband, 2 metal shanks, and a curb chain. The noseband goes over the horse's nose, connects to the 2 shanks on each side of the face, and then the curb chain connects to the shanks under the horse's chin. The complete hackamore then attaches to the headstall of a bridle, and with the addition of reins works off nose, poll, and chin pressure to guide the horse. So with bitless, you've either got the bit, which is working off mouth pressure, and bits can also work off off nose and pull pressure as well. The one you've got, Natalie, is just mouth pressure, just your normal French link, and tongue pressure and bar pressure. So when you go into the Hackamore bridles or something like a gag bit, you're then incorporating nose and pull pressure and chin pressure to give more control. So with this, so when pressure is applied to the reins, there is a leverage action on the pole in addition to the direct nose and curb pressure. Because of this, Hackamores can be considered a strong bit if used in inexperienced hands, but can be a great option for horses that prefer pole pressure. The type of noseband and curb chain will also affect the harshness. Mira is a pretty sensitive mare, so she found a lot of the traditional mechanical Hackamores a little too strong for her liking. But luckily, there are so many different features now to choose from, so you can find just the right combination. So here you go through shank length. So the shank is the lever that comes down off the bit. The severity of the Hackamore directly relates to the length of the shanks. The longer the shanks, the more leverage it will have and the stronger it will be. The standard length to start with is about 7-inch shanks, and you can move shorter or longer from there depending on your needs. So she's got a basic one here. So they're just going through the different types of shanks on Hackamores. So the noseband, another factor will be the severity of the Hackamore as the type of noseband, and the curb chain. Okay, so that's just that's your Hackamore in Bitless. So the side pull. So a side pull is what I have with my Bitless bridle. A side pull is another common Bitless bridle that works off direct nose pressure. It is basically the equivalent of attaching reins to a halter. There is no leverage action, so there's no leverage action on the pole, and that's the same as with a simple bit, such as the French link. There's no leverage action, but instead of having pressure on the nose, it's got pressure on the bars and the tongue of the mouth. So it basically, there is no leverage action with this type of bitless bridle. The noseband comes in a variety of different materials, such as rope or leather, and has a metal ring on each side that you attach to the reins. I don't know this one, a scrawbrig. It's similar to a side pull. A scrawbrig combines both nose and chin pressure. Okay, it features a side pull, a noseband, as well as a strap of leather with 2 rings that connect under the chin. Actually, my side pull has this as well. Oh no, it doesn't put pressure under the chin. No, the reins then attach to the piece of leather under the chin. So when the reins are pulled, there is chin pressure in addition to nose pressure. And the next one is a cross under. Bitless bridle resembles side pulls, but have 2 straps that cross under the horse's jaw to apply pressure to the whole head, as opposed to just the nose. The reins then attach to those straps. So, for instance, when you pull on the right rein, it exerts pressure on the left side of the horse's face to guide them in the right direction. This is interesting. Okay, bozels are most commonly used in the Western industry. They have a braided rawhide noseband at the end of a knot, where the reins are attached. The reins are a single long piece of rope that, when tied, creates a looped rein as well as a free rein. Okay, we're probably not going to go into bozels. That's more for Western riding. So bozels encourage flexion and softness by putting pressure on the opposite side of the face. Whereas a side pull has independent side pressure. Convertible. Okay, this is what's really good, I think, Paula. Something for you, a convertible, a great versatile option for bitless is using a convertible bridle. such as the Rambo Micklin multi-bridle, though my side pull is a convertible bridle. It can be used traditionally with a bit, but also converts into a side pull. Says multiple convertible hackamores out there as well that allow you to change the placement of the reins on the shank. Okay. So I won't read the rest of it, but I'm just going to keep that because I think it's just a really good option to be able to. I know Paul is having a lot of problems with bits, so it's a really good option to have the bitless alternative. And a lot of people find it, you know, having that goal of riding bitless as well. So you can definitely get bridles. I don't know if you wanted to do that in the future, Natalie, but you can definitely get bridles that can alternate, go from bit to bitless. So, but if your boy is very happy in a bit, that's wonderful. And just a nice egg butt French link is a very nice light bit. So yeah, I think every horse is individual. And as it says here, I'm just going to share. Oh, no, I shared that with me. The conformation of every horse's mouth is different. Some horses will have a very low palate and a thick tongue. And so any bit is going to cause a lot of discomfort because there's not the room in the mouth. So actually having a bit specialist come out, but someone who knows what they're talking about, or even learning more about your own horse's conformation in their mouth and just seeing how much room is in there and then be guided to what bit they're going to be comfortable in. If they have a very low palate and thick tongue, they're never going to get any relief of the pressure of the bit. So it's really important to identify what type of mouth your horse has and then find the type of bit that they're comfortable in. Worst case scenario, I'm not even going to say worst case scenario, but another option that we've got is the bitless. And even the hackamores that aren't severe can be an alternative as well. When in saying that, if you're asking your horse to work with pole pressure, you want to make sure that you have no, you know, that body workers, there's no tension around the pole or anything like that. So yeah, lots of options for us. Natalie, if you're still here, did you want me to, do you have any questions that you wanted me to talk about or, yeah, let me know. What I'm going to do, this will be good for you, Natalie. I just realized I've got another question to answer for Paula. So let me go back to Paula's question. I'm all over the place today in my life. I'm just go back to Paula's question. So in my group, well, where are we? My groups. What am I doing here? I'm just getting up Paula's question. Okay. So we talked about, so Paula has, I'll read it out again. I'll just read Paula's question out again in case you missed the beginning. Can you please touch on what the next step would be after stop and go? So Paula's been training her mare stop and go in hand. I think, Natalie, you've been doing the same thing, doing lots and lots of groundwork. I've got a series, so I'm filming my Nina. I've got, I know Paula watched the Q&A a couple of weeks ago where I went through my first session with Nina and analysed what was happening. So I'm actually going to be filming Nina's whole progress. So that'll be something we can follow. And this will be really good for everybody, Natalie and Paula and everyone who's starting off and just, you know, still on the ground or just getting in the saddle. So Paula says she wants to make sure she's covered it all before putting a bit back in the horse's mouth. So we've just discussed that if Paula, your mare does not settle in any bit, there is a bitless option. So I start off in hand. As I said, with the head collar and then go to the bit. If for some reason you've got a thoroughbred that is really hard, like a Nina, for instance, with a lot of people, she would have needed to start with a bit in her mouth just for safety reasons. But yeah, introduce the bit and then make sure on the ground that your horse is understanding the stop and go response. So stopping to light pressure with the bit, coming forward, so that it's like they're very fluid. They're moving back and forward. Very fluidly, so not delayed in their coming forward response and not heavy in their stop response. So once you've got that, you can introduce a little bit of lunging. So once your horse is in hand at leading, stopping and going nice and lightly, you can step out and have more of a lunging. So instead of leading forward, you're facing your horse and you can actually teach the cues where you're lunging them. Okay, and making sure that they're stopping and going to a light response with a longer lead rein or lunge rein. This is where you can also incorporate what's called secondary classical conditioning, which is your secondary cue or secondary aid. So you can teach your horse to stop and go by a voice aid. So, for instance, before you give your forward response in hand, you can say walk on or trot on and then give your lead rein response. And the horse will learn. It's called classical conditioning. So they'll learn that cue when they hear you say walk on or trot on. They'll associate that with your light lead rein pressure. So you can do that too before you get up under saddle. So let me just, it's going to be a little bit easier for me to demonstrate all of this in videos. So Paula's got her horse stopping and going nice and lightly. So you teach your horse stop and go and back up. So stop and then take some steps back is also still, and it's still what we call the stop aid. You teach your horse, so Paula's she's got her hind quarter yielding and forequarter yield, so that's really good. So teaching your horse to step and turn. You can teach your horse to move away from their shoulders. You need to teach your horse to come forward and step out in the turn in hand. And then when you've taught all of that, so it looks like you've covered everything, Paula. So she has stop and go, backing, hind quarter yield and forequarter yield working really well. So then what do you recommend to add in next? Putting her in the bridle. Yep. So basically, once you've consolidated all your stop and go to light and turning and yielding to light responses in hand on the ground, you're a sponge at the moment. Awesome. I think that I've got some training series coming up, so I think that would be really, really good. Both Ty, I've already got filmed, and Nina. So I've got those. I'll pop up on YouTube, and also a training series coming up in the academy as well, which I'll put a link up to when I've got that up and going again. So once you've got everything, your horse nice and responsive to the aids in hand, and also teaching head down is really good. I've got some videos on that, and in my Nina video, I have teaching Nina head down. I'll upload that today. I've got that in my Q&A, but I'll also upload that. I'll upload Nina. Then we go under saddle. So the same thing happens. So when Paula, once you find out whatever bit or bitless option you're going into, you just transfer everything to under saddle. So under saddle is the same thing. So we're stopping and going under saddle. So you'll ask your horse, instead of with the whip taps. So what we use is lead rein pressure or whip taps. It's going to be much easier for me to be able to show you all of this in the videos that I've got. But whip taps to go forward on the ground. Now, when you're in the saddle, you want your horse to go forward by light leg nudges. So your lower leg is your aid to go forward. Now, quite often with off the track thoroughbreds, they won't understand this. We ride very short in track work. They tend to run more on adrenaline, and they get quite heavy in the lead rein. in the bridle and the bit. So you need to be able to, in the saddle, teach your horse to respond to light leg aids and also light bit pressure. So for instance, when you're asking your horse to walk forward under saddle, you'll always start off with a light leg nudge with both your legs. If they don't respond immediately, go into a firmer nudge with your lower legs. And then if they don't respond, you can incorporate your dressage whip and give them 2 taps on their rib cage. And as soon as they respond with forward, you stop and release the pressure. So it's basically just doing everything that you did in hand and putting it up into your under saddle training. So teaching light, go forward, stop. So once again, going forward, a little nudge with your lower leg. They haven't responded, a firmer nudge. If they haven't responded, little tap with a dressage whip. And as soon as they take 1 step forward, you release the pressure. They will start to learn to go forward from the light leg pressure, I should say. So horses are very good at predicting what's going to come next. So this is why it's really important to start off with a light aid first, because they will realize that if they don't respond to the light aid, that a firmer leg pressure will come, or a couple of little whip taps. So always start off with the light aid first. You'll often see in riding schools and that riders, going to big kick with the horse to start off with. So it's quite firm pressure instead of giving the horse the option to start to respond to light pressure. So our goal is to be able to have our aids all discriminative down to light pressures and teach the horse to respond to that light pressure. So the same is with our stop. So we need to teach stop and go. You basically teach together, because if you're going to teach your horse to go forward, we need to be able to stop them. So when you are under saddle, your horse needs to be able to stop from rein pressure. So once again, you'll ask with a light rein bit, like light bit pressure, or bitless option, whichever way you're going. If they don't respond to your light pressure first, you immediately go to firmer pressure, and as soon as they stop their legs, you release. So it is the release that teaches the horse what to do. So they will learn that as soon as they have learnt the right response to give from the release of the pressure. And this is why it's really important to release the pressure as soon as they give you the right response. So as soon as they stop their legs, it's important to release the pressure. That's how they have learnt that response was the correct response. So I hope that makes sense. So once again, we're doing stop and go under saddle. And what you'll feel often is that off the track thoroughbreds tend to be very heavy. You feel like that they are heavy in the rein pressure, that unless they're quite nervous, or what we call a hot off the track thoroughbred, hot horse, where they're real jig-joggy, head up and on alert, which my Nina is and my first off the track thoroughbreds. So you'll feel sometimes that they can still be heavy, but if anything, they don't like the leg pressure. They can be very sensitive to leg pressure. So my first off the track thoroughbred Modo, I could hardly put leg on him and he would just shoot forward and get very anxious. Now, this is more uncommon than horses being a little bit dull or not understanding leg pressure, but you will get a horse like this. And Paula, your horse might be like this, your mare, where you go to put the leg pressure on and they sort of shoot forward, or they tense up and panic. This you often will find as well in horses that haven't been educated under saddle very well. They haven't been taught to habituate to our leg pressure around their rib cage, and with thoroughbred racehorses as well, because we ride quite often, we ride fairly short in racing, though nowadays track work riders are riding longer, but some off the track thoroughbreds aren't used to that consistent long leg pressure around their rib cage, depending on what trainer they've been with and what length rider, what they've been riding at. So just see if your horse is relaxed and you can let your legs hang down on their sides just with that contact, okay, without them responding. So you want that first, whether it's an off the track thoroughbred or a horse. I've found with horses that haven't been old school broken in, I've got a little paint horse called Alfie, and he bucked everybody off. And when I never had a problem with him bucking, because I noticed I actually got on him bareback once I did all my in-hand work, and I noticed as soon as I got on him, he couldn't handle, he panicked. And when he felt my legs just sit on his rib cage, he actually panicked. So I would gradually let him get used to my legs on around his sides, which is contact, and let him habituate to that pressure, and relax with it. And if anything, get very comfortable with it and relax with me being on his body. So I hope this makes sense, that you're sort of letting them relax and feeling that leg pressure next to them as neutral. Okay, they're comfortable with you being on their back. You want to try and teach them to associate you with a positive experience on the back, which is going to be, racehorses have a lot of negative associations with being ridden as a horse, that hasn't been broken in correctly, and probably, this horse literally had his saddle thrown on. He wasn't habituated to the saddle properly, and he had fear associated with being ridden and had fear associated with the leg contact. So start right back and sit on your horse and just think, when you drape your legs on their side, and just let that nice contact be there. With English riding, your dressage, your show jumping, your hacking, all of that, we ride with contact, so rein contact and leg contact, so your legs are draped nice and softly against your side. Some Western riding, they actually don't have the leg contact. They ride with their legs off the horse, and then when they give an aid, it's just that light aid. I haven't ridden Western, so I don't know a lot about it, but I know some Western type riding is when their legs are off the horse. So you can see the difference. The legs are always off the horse, and they might come in just to give the horse a go forward aid, or they might have spurs on. Whereas in our dressage and track work and all of that, polo, we're riding with already our neutral contact. So start off with see how your horse feels with that neutral contact of your lower leg, and then you teach them to go with a little nudge with your lower leg. They most often won't respond. And also with Off the Track Thoroughbred, you feel that very heavy. They feel heavy, and they feel like they're on the forehand. Now, this is to do with not being light to the responses for a start, and also it's to do with they feel like this because they're not carrying their body in a healthy posture in self-carriage, with more weight on their hind end. So when we're retraining the basic responses, it's not only about retraining them education-wise and teaching them the aids and light responses, but while we're doing this, we're actually changing their physical posture and their frame, how they're carrying themselves. So it's part of your, I suppose you would call it your dressage training, your classical dressage training, with the classical dressage training, anything. This should be the basis of any type of riding discipline. You want your horse to be carrying themselves in a healthy posture where they are in self-carriage. They are not feeling heavy on the forehand. Racing, they tend to spend a lot of the time working more on the forehand. Galloping is like that. More weight is on the forehand, and they're leaning into the bit. I've spoken about this numerous times. Whereas you can see in racing, they're leaning into the bit and there's more weight on the forehand. So you can see more weight on the forehand. So we have to gradually strengthen them, teach them to give to the pressure instead of leaning into the bit pressure and depending on it for balance, and gradually shift that forehand to make it lighter, more weight on their hind end. But we also need to consider, have they got any issues with their hind end? Are they comfortable with learning to put weight on their hind end? Do they need some chiropractic work? Is there inflammation in there? So you want to make sure that they have no kissing spine. There's quite around the sacroiliac joint, a lot of wear and tear happens with racehorses. So you want to make sure that they can start to put some weight on their hind end. Even the backing up, teaching them to take those few steps backing up is strengthening their hind end. So while we're retraining the basic responses in hand and then under saddle, we're also physically training our horse to carry themselves in a healthy posture, to strengthen their hind end, to use their top line. So it's not people, I think, want to think, I need to get my horse's top line Why hasn't he got a top line? And, they want to think of, the whole, I suppose, the old school where they're using these side reins and making them running around and teaching the horse to step under, using their back. But that is, your horse is going to strengthen your top line just by doing these in-hand exercises. That's where you start to build your top line, by doing this. If your horse is not in self-carriage and is not carrying themselves properly, they're not going to build top line and they're not going to strengthen their hind end. And the way to teach them to carry themselves in a healthy posture and being in self-carriage is to teach them to be light to the aids, to light to their responses. So I hope this makes sense. I hope that, I think people want to go, I want to build my horse's top line. Retraining the basic responses is going to be building your horse's top line. So you sort of get two for one, 2 for 1. So going back and doing the correct retraining is also contributing to teaching your horse to carry their body in a healthy way, to soften and use their posture in a more healthy way, which is going to build your top line and you'll be able to progress through what is called the shaping scale, which is what I need to show in the training exercises. So I've explained under saddle, we're going to feel that heavy. So there's so much involved in this. We're going to have to do this in a training series. But once you're in the saddle, okay, you're teaching your horse to stop lightly. You'll find that quite often when they're heavy, you'll stop and they're heavy. You want to be able to ask them to take a few steps back. And what you'll start to feel is when you feel like that they shift their weight from their bit or the heavy head collar and you'll feel that shift of weight back to their hind end. Okay, you release the pressure and you'll feel that they're taking weight off their head and weight off the lead rein, and you'll feel they're sort of putting more weight on their hind end. You'll get that feeling. So yeah, let me know if you do get that feeling, because that's the signs of self-carriage, and it's the signs of training lightness. Now you have to remember they're heavy because they don't have the strength in their hind end. So they haven't got the musculature and the postural muscles to be able to maintain that self-carriage. So that's what we're teaching as well. As we're training lightness, we're also training them physically. We're training them, like going to the gym and training them physically. So it's not only training them to learn the responses, but also strengthening up their musculature to be able to maintain self-carriage. And then we progress. So you stop and go in hand, and you'll find as you do transitions, your horse will become lighter. So once you've trained the basic response level of stop and go, then it goes up through what's called a shaping scale. So all these basic responses, everything in riding. So let's just look at the dressage, look at dressage, because show jumping and eventing and all of that, it's all made up of the same moves. So Grand Prix dressage, so looking up at your high level dressage, you've got your half passes, you've got your renvers and your travers, you've got your pirouettes, all the very high the high movements. They're all made up of what is called the basic responses. The horse can go forward. Okay, we can stop, the horse can yield, the horse can turn, so step their legs out, the horse can yield, so cross over with their legs. So these basic responses that we're teaching them all come together and make up these higher movements. For example, so just say a half pass. So a half pass is moving forward and sideways with flexion flexion going the way, okay, that you're moving. So leg yielding is flexion going out the other way. So what have we got here? So just say with a half pass, we've taught the horse to move forward. Okay, so they need to be able to understand the forward leg aid. We've taught the horse to yield, to move sideways off the leg. Okay, so we need to be able to teach the horse to move their hindquarters over, to need to be able to teach the horse to move their forequarters over. So you're breaking up every single response. You teach them individually first to the horse, which is what we're doing in our basic foundation training. And then when the horse understands that and they've trained to very light responses, then it all comes together and you put those responses all together where you can achieve the half pass. So you've taught your horse to move off lightly off the leg. You've taught the horse to go forward. You've taught the horse flexion. Okay, now we go into that with giving giving in their poll and a little bit of flexion. And quite often off the track thoroughbreds will really get stiff in their poll, very tight in their jaw and that. So we need to teach them to give that. So that's just part of giving to the bit and giving to poll pressure. So I go into that in training as well. But can you see in the higher movements, all the aids we're teaching in the basic foundation is so important, and it's part of where you want to go, whether it's out just enjoying pleasure riding, where you want to just go from walk and have a light, nice leg aid and pop up into canter. Okay, out, you want to do endurance. So trotting up nice, light and canter your horses in self-carriage, pleasure riding, or you want to go and do dressage or show jumping. You want to go and get out and do some show jumping when you want your horse nice and responsive. Turning, okay, turning is really important in show jumping. Your half halt, so your horse transitioning. So part of increasing the shaping scale is being able to teach your horse to, once you've taught stop and go, well, then you teach them to go faster. So you want to be able to teach them to go very lightly to the aids and increase their length of stride, increase their speed of stride, and then come back nice and lightly so that they're very fluid, and you can basically increase your horse's legs, speed to a light aid, slow them down to looks like invisible aids. I hope this makes sense, where you look like your horse is very fluid and they're responding to the lightest of aids. So that's our goal. That's where we want to get to. Where do we start? Where we are now. And it's basically teaching to move every part of the horse's body individually first, and then we put them all together, and we don't do all the aids together. So we never do stop and go at the same time. It's all separated, but it can blend in very closely because the horse is so tuned in and so responsive to your aids that you put them all together and you can create these really nice movements, as you see in good dressage, classical dressage, not the modern day dressage, which is not good. So I hope that makes sense, Paula, on where to go. Now, where to go? What I'm going to do is I'm filming all of Nina's retraining. So I've got three videos. So this will be really good for you, Paula, because I think Nina is very similar to your mare in that she's sensitive and she's not sort of dull. I've also got training series with Ty, okay, who's so completely opposite to Nina. So I think these are going to be really good. So what I'll do is I will get our community. I've changed the course, so I'll get our community back up and I will start the training series. I've got 2 lessons already. I'll organize something, okay, so that we might do I might get together a group of everybody, just say, I don't know, 50 of us, and in the community, instead of leaving everybody to their own resources of going through the lessons, maybe, I mean, there'll be replays, but maybe we can do like a weekly group training session. I'll release a weekly video, and then we can do a weekly session, live session to go with that, and we can talk about it. I'll work out something and we can do it with Ty and Nina. I think if we get something together where we have a program, a structure to follow, that might be easier for me as well as you. And then we can work forward. So a live training series. Okay, awesome, Sarah Becker. Okay, hey, how you going, Sarah Becker? I just spoke a heap about that. I think that, yeah, a group would be really good. And then we can work through, start off at the basics, because a lot of us, yeah, cool. We can start off at the basics, and a lot of us are there. And I've got 2 horses. So I've got Nina, who I've just started, which I can do. I've already got 3 videos that I've filmed for Nina, and I'll film Nina's whole progress. And I've already got a whole series. Awesome. So I've got a whole series with Ty that I can start. And I think what we'll do is we'll do maybe just say a 12-week program or something like that, or maybe just a weekly. Well, we'll organize, I'll release a lesson each week, and then we'll have a live training series. We'll work out a time that's suitable for everybody. I can do, I know, Sarah, Becker, you're in the States, and Natalie and Paula are in Australia. So let's get something together. Let's look at starting that next week. How's that sound? We'll start a training series next week. We'll start off right back with the basic responses. I've already got 2 lessons up on how horses learn, so I'll get those back up, and we'll pick I'll do a day where I'll drop the weekly lesson, and then we'll do a live where we can get together in a Zoom session and discuss it. Cool. Awesome. Okay. Because I've been thinking of that, and I'm thinking, it's hard to get motivated. I know I'm training. I'm studying myself, the Diploma of Equitation Science. And it's really hard when you're left to your own terms. It's sort of quite a discipline and organisation, whereas we've got 1 lesson released each week. I think that's going to keep it really simple, because there's a lot to learn. So I think we'll do that. Let's do that. Okay, done. We'll do that. So keep an eye out. Now, I've got an email list as well. Make sure that you're on my email list. I'm pretty sure, Natalie, you're on my email list, because Facebook is going a bit weird and everything. Yeah, teacher's really good. I think I prefer having a teacher as well. And also being able to reach out and we'll get a community together. We'll get the group together so that we can have a structure. I think having a structure is really good, and having a plan to follow. So, and then closing it. So let's get a group of us together and then maybe close it. Just say, I don't even know, 10 of us or something like that. Let's get a group and we'll close the group and then work through, just say 8 weeks or 12 weeks. And then we can then share all the replays, and it can be like a little online course itself that we've created by going live. I'll get something up and we'll get that started next week. What day is it today? So it's Wednesday. So let's look at getting that started maybe on Tuesday. We can have our first lesson upload. And yeah, I'll put it out to you. So keep an eye out, because I've got email lists. So make sure you're on my email list. I'll go through the videos. So yeah, I'm thinking in my head as I speak here. So we'll start off. So has anyone, so Sarah, Becky, have you, oh no, you probably haven't. You've gone through the first course. Don't know, Natalie, have you got the first course? Retraining and OTTB. I'll get links back up, and you can just check in with that. Sorry, I'm thinking in my head as I'm speaking, so I'm a bit all over the place, but that's what we'll do. And I also, Paula's found Nina's little, I know, Sarah, Becky, you're having a terrible time. Oh, awesome. So that's so great. You've used it for Bart, Natalie. Fantastic. Thinking module. Yeah, no rush with it, because I know what it's like. So what we'll do is everyone who joins, so have that. That's sort of the introduction into the academy type of thing, because I think everyone's got there. And then the next step is the practical retraining. So we'll start a group live session of the practical retraining, and then you've got the course to go back to. And what we'll do is we'll go through the live, like you stop and go and you turn and yield. We'll go through that in real time. So you can see what I'm doing. So I did a live, and I know it's quite long, with Nina, and I'll get that up as a separate YouTube video. So you don't have to go through the whole hour and a half live. I'll do that. I've got to study today, so I'll do that tomorrow. I'll try and do it today. And then we'll pick up a live training starting next week. And we'll work out some time. So leave it with me. Now, keep an eye on that. 2 things we'll keep an eye on the live training. And also, 2, what I want to do is organize a Q&A with we're talking about pasture and diet. We talked about that last week. So I want to organize a Q&A, a Zoom session with Jenny Patterson from Calm Healthy Horses. So she is an equine nutritionist. She's very, very knowledgeable in pasture and all the dilemmas that we can have with pasture. So I've spoken with her, and she's really keen to do a Zoom session, a webinar. And we can get together. So that's another one. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll put a notice up and see if anyone's interested in that. We can get it'll probably go for an hour, and we'll have maybe a 30-minute webinar keynote session with Jenny, and then we can ask questions afterwards. So let's get those two up. So 2 steps. We're going to get a training series started next week, and we're going to get a webinar Zoom pasture equine nutrition together with Jenny. Now, I'm not the most tech savvy person. I swear this has been a huge learning curve for me. And I get a little bit slow with the whole tech side. And oh gosh. So with Jenny and I get together on a Zoom session. Jenny's a little bit like me. We're horsey people that are learning the whole Zoom thing. So if we have a few tech issues, we might have to bear with us, but let's get that done. So I might finish the live now, and I'll pop something up straight away in the group. And I worked out chat. Awesome. I'm so glad that you got here for the chat. What I'm going to do, Natalie, is I'm going to work out how to chat. So there's a group. I can do lives in another there's a new platform that I've started up. So it's really good. There's a few I'm changing a few things around. So putting the online courses in the same place where the first Kickstart Roadmap course is, and then we've got a separate community. So I've needed to change things around a little bit, just financially. Both plans were getting too expensive, but I've got a really good option to be able to transfer the course to the other online platform. And then we've got a community where we can do our live trainings in. And then I know I can also do a link to be able to do this live out on Facebook as well. I don't know how to work that out yet, but I think I've got to buy a bit of software. I'll look at that and see if we can sort of, I can sort of expand to YouTube and Facebook together. I don't do TikTok or anything. That's too confusing for me. I don't know how to do Instagram. So let me, so if you haven't got any more questions, I will leave it there, and I'll get straight on to the webinar session, pasture and equine nutrition. I'll put a post up within the next hour in the group and on the Facebook page. And I will also keep you, we'll organize the training series with starting Stop and Go. We'll start that next week. Keep an eye out for some posts, because we'll work out the best times. So what is the best time? So I've got to do, if I release a video, I'll release a training session of just say Nina or Ty. So I'll release a video lesson, and then what we might do, do you want me to release it first, and then at the end of the week, or we'll go through and do a live session on that, or a Q&A? I think it's important to be able to follow up on it. Let me work it out. I'll put it to you. I'll put it to you, and you can let me know what works. We might even be able to do 2 live Q&As or 2 sessions to fit in with the times. Yeah, I think weekends are better for people. Yep. So maybe a Saturday, Sunday, because Saturday here in Australia is Sunday, is Friday over there. You're 14 hours behind, I think, aren't you? We'll work it out. Cool. Okay. So I might leave it there and get on to those 2 goals. Yeah, cool. Okay. Awesome, Natalie. Okay, wonderful. It's good to be flexible in time. I've got 100 horses to take care of, so I have to work out. Usually early mornings are good for me here. because of a night time, I get really tired. We're probably, yeah. Yes, that's right. Exactly. They're back at work. Yeah. So let's do weekends. I'll look more at weekends. So if I can do a week early morning, Saturdays and Sundays, early mornings are good for me. Or early mornings anytime are good for me. So my dogs are barking. Bailey. But we'll work a time frame, and then we can also, there's also be a replay as well, and we'll have the group to reach out to. So I'll have a few options so that everyone's got a, you know, you can reach out anytime and ask questions. Awesome. Okay. I'll leave it there and keep an eye out for my post for the, I'll pop a post to who's interested in the, Jenny Patterson Equine Nutrition, and also our training starting next week. Okay. See ya. Thanks so much for joining us, Natalie. Thanks, Sarah Becker. See you soon. Bye.